If you're finding it a little difficult to wind down tonight, don't worry. You've come to exactly the right place, because the topic we're exploring is so wonderfully ordinary, so deeply uneventful, and so magnificently unremarkable that your mind may not be able to hold on to wakefulness for very long. In fact, most people don't think about this object at all. They use it every day, sometimes without even realizing that they reholding Italiano, and yet it has been quietly following humanity for thousands upon thousands of years, unchanged in its purpose, patient in its usefulness, and humble in its presence. Tonight, we will be taking a slow, steady, and very gentle walk through the history of the spoon. Yes, the spoon, a simple tool endlessly reliable, rarely celebrated, and never dramatic. No wars were fought because of it. No empires collapsed under its influence. No great rebellions were started in its name. A spoon simply existed, day after day, era after era, so still, so steady, that it has watched entire civilizations rise, flourish, and disappear, while it continued to rest quietly in kitchens, in pouches, in pockets, and in tiny clay bowls around the world. As you settle in, you might want to adjust your pillow, take a slow, comfortable breath, and let your shoulders soften. Because we are not racing through history, there will be no urgency here tonight, no twists, no tension, and absolutely nothing that requires you to stay alert. Instead, we'll be gently wandering through time, looking at the most ordinary corners of human life, where the spoon quietly waited to be noticed. And in doing so, we'll allow your mind to drift into the kind of peaceful boredom that makes sleep feel almost unavoidable. Imagine, for a moment, holding a simple wooden spoon. Nothing fancy. The kind with a smooth, rounded bowl and a slightly imperfect handle carved by someone centuries ago. Long before electricity, before industry, before stainless steel factories. Just a piece of wood, shaped slowly by steady hands, scraped and sanded until it felt comfortable to hold. It may have been used to stir a pot of broth, or to scoop a bit of grain, or perhaps to measure out a pinch of herbs that no longer grow anywhere in the world. Thousands of these spoons existed, and thousands more were discarded, lost, burned, or forgotten because no one thought they were special. And yet, each one was quietly connected to the everyday lives of people who lived long before us. Spoons, in their simplest form, have been with humans for so long that archaeologists believe the earliest versions were in tea, even made by people they were found. Shells along the shore, small enough to fit into a hand and curved just enough to scoop water, or crushed roots, smooth stones with shallow dips worn by nature. These earliest protospoons were never celebrated or named, but they set the pattern for everything that came after. A bowl to hold something, and a handle to guide it. It is easy to forget how many generations lived entire lifetimes without ever questioning the shape of a spoon. They didn't debate its design or argue over its purpose. They simply used it, day after day, meal after meal, passing the habit down through centuries of quiet repetition. And as mundane as that might sound, there is something deeply soothing in knowing that such a simple object has connected us across time-linking ancient hands with modern ones, unfamiliar kitchens with familiar routines. So tonight, as we slowly drift backward through thousands of years, following the quiet trail of scoops and ladles and carved wooden handles, I invite you to let your breathing settle into a comfortable rhythm. There's no way you need to be, nothing you need to remember. We're simply sharing a calm moment in which the smallest details of history become gentle, sleepy companions. The kind that remind you that the world has always been filled with tiny, quiet objects, doing their job without asking for attention. And if at any point your eyes grow heavy, that's perfectly all right. The story of the spoon will continue patiently, just as it always has, waiting for you whenever you decide to return. For now, simply rest, listen, and let the quiet simplicity of our journey begin. Long before metal tools, before pottery wheels, before even the earliest villages were built, humans discovered that nature had already provided something remarkably useful. The simple curve of a shell, somewhere near a shoreline, tens of thousands of years ago, A person picked up a shell that held just the right amount of water, or mashed roots, or animal broth left simmering near a fire. That small discovery wasn't dramatic, and it certainly didn't reshape the world, but it did mark the beginning of what we now think of as the spoon. Not as a celebrated invention, but as an everyday companion that appeared so naturally it hardly felt invented at all. These first spoons weren't carved or shaped. They were chosen, selected from the earth, appreciated for their convenience, and used until they cracked or were forgotten in the sand. Bones sometimes served the same purpose. A shoulder blade with a shallow curve could be dipped into a mixture of berries or used to scoop ashes from a fire pit. Even stones, smoothed by rain and time, developed small depressions that could hold liquid for a moment. Early humans didn't have a concept of utensils in the modern sense. They didn't sit down at tables or follow any sort of formal dining rituals. They gathered around fires. They shared food. And when the food was too hot to touch or too soft to hold, they reached for the closest curved object the earth offered them. From this simple, instinctive act, the earliest chapter of spoon history was quietly written. There were no records, no drawings, no ceremonies marking the moment. Just humans discovering that the world already contained the tools they needed. And so the spoon began its long, uneventful journey, one cum scoop at a time. As human societies slowly organized into the first civilizations, it became the material of choice for shaping everyday tools. It was abundant, forgiving, and warm in the hand. In the river valleys of early Egypt, simple wooden spoons were carved with small stone knives, their surfaces smoothed by sand and patience. These spoons weren't meant for lavish feasts. They were humble domestic items, resting beside jars of oil or small pots of honey, ready to help with the quiet tasks that filled each day. Egyptian artisans soon found subtle ways to refine their designs. Some spoons were carved from acacia wood, valued for its durability. Others came from the soft, pale sycamore fig. Easier to shape and cool to the touch. Even though these tools were plain, they carried the rhythms of daily life used for mixing medicines, serving bread dips, or measuring herbs for rituals that have long faded into silence. Further east, in Mesopotamia, the wooden spoon became a symbol of domestic steadiness. Families passed down their kitchen tools, much like they passed down their stories. A spoon might stir porridge for years, slowly absorbing the scent of the foods it touched. In houses made of clay bricks, where meals simmered over open fires, the wooden spoon was as reliable as the rising sun. Nothing about these objects seemed important enough to record in the grand histories of kings and battles. Yet for most people, the spoon was more present than any ruler or written law. It appeared at every meal. It helped feed children and elders. It mixed the ingredients for celebrations and for ordinary days alike. Slowly, without seeking attention, the wooden spoon carved its quiet place into human life. And though centuries would pass before anyone thought to study its evolution, it remained steady, useful, and content in its simplicity. When humans learned to work with metal, a world of new possibilities opened. Bronze, a careful blend of copper and tin, was one of the earliest alloys that offered strength, shape, and resilience beyond anything wood could provide. While bronze is often remembered for weapons, tools, and decorative items, it also found a home in the quiet, forgotten corner of domestic life. Creating a bronze spoon wasn't fast. First, ore had to be gathered, sometimes from mountainsides or rocky ground, far from home. It was heated in clay furnaces until it melted into a glowing reddish liquid. Once tin was added, the mixture transformed into bronze material, smoother, heavier, and more enduring than anything most people had held before. Artisans poured the molten metal into simple molds carved from stone or pressed from sand. When cooled, the early bronze spoons emerged. Curved bowls with small, sturdy handles. These spoons weren't yet common. They were owned by households with a bit more wealth, or by priests and scribes who valued tools that lasted. Yet they weren't flashy. Even in temples or large homes, a bronze spoon wasn't a centerpiece. It was simply a dependable tool, cherished for its durability. It didn't warp in heat or crack from use. It didn't absorb flavors or scents. It felt cool to the touch and carried a gentle weight, reminding its user that they held a crafted objects, something shaped through effort and fire. Some bronze spoons had decorative engravings. Others remained plain, made for daily tasks like mixing herbal mixtures or measuring grains. But across all their uses, one thing remained constant. Bronze spoons marked humanity's slow shift from nature-crafted tools to purpose-shaped ones. Still simple, still quiet. The spoon continued its patient journey through time, now a little stronger, a little more refined, and ready for centuries more of silent work. In ancient Greece, dining became more refined, and utensils followed suit. Greek households favored a small spoon known as the cochlear, a delicate tool with a narrow handle and a modest bowl. It wasn't used for every dish. Most Greeks still preferred eating with their hands, but it played an important supporting role at meals, especially those involving broths, eggs, or delicate sauces. The spoon appeared at symposiums, where conversations flowed as easily as the wine, adding a touch of practical grace to gatherings that celebrated thought and discourse. When the Romans adopted spoon culture, they carried it to new levels of household tradition. The Roman spoon came in two main types: the ligula, a broad spoon for soups and soft foods, and the cochlear, a smaller spoon often equipped with a pointed handle. That pointed end wasn't just decoration. It was used to extract snails from their shells or crack open small eggs. For the Romans, eating was a multi-sensory experience, and the spoon became a versatile instrument in their culinary toolkit. A Roman kitchen was filled with utensils of bronze, bone, or sometimes silver if the family was wealthy. Spoons rested beside bowls of olives, pots of stewed lentils, and platters of roasted vegetables. In large homes, servants carried spoons from room to room as meals progressed through multiple courses. In smaller households, a single spoon might be shared, cleaned carefully, and put away until the next meal. Despite the sophistication of Roman life, the spoon still wasn't considered special. It was functional, often modest, rarely noted in records except in inventories of household goods. Yet it followed Roman soldiers across continents, traveled with merchants across the empire, and appeared in taverns, villas, and camps alike. Without fanfare, it helped shape one of history's most influential dining cultures, one small scoop at a time. With the fall of the Roman Empire came centuries of slow, quiet change. Daily life in medieval Europe was simple for most people, built around farms, fields, and hearths. Wooden spoons once again became the default utensil for ordinary households. Crafted from oak, birch, ash, or fruitwoods, these spoons were shaped by hand in cottages, lit only by firelight. The tools used to carve them were few: a knife, a hollowing tool, and patience. A medieval wooden spoon rarely looked perfect. Some were uneven, with bowls that leaned slightly to one side. Others had handles that twisted or tapered in unusual ways. But none of that mattered. These spoons stirred patija, thick, slow-cooked stew that was often the only meal of the day. They mixed grains with vegetables and scraped the last bits of food from cauldrons that hung above open flames. In wealthier households, spoons were made of metal, usually bronze or latten. Nobles sometimes carried their own spoons to feasts, tucked into leather pouches along with knives. At banquets, where dishes were presented in grand style, spoons played a role in serving sauces, custards, and sweetened porridge. Even so, they were overshadowed by knives, goblets, and platters that stole the attention of chroniclers. The average medieval kitchen was warm, smoky, and filled with the scents of boiling vegetables and baking bread. A wooden spoon hung near the hearth, blackened from years of use. It wasn't considered valuable, but it was indispensable. If it broke, someone carved another. If it burned, someone replaced it. And through all the hardships, wars, and weather, the spoon remained a constant companion of everyday life, quiet, dependable, and unchanged. While spoons were mostly functional, they sometimes carried symbolic meaning in certain cultures and traditions. In parts of medieval Europe, giving a spoon as a gift had a quiet significance. A silver spoon presented at a baptism was thought to symbolize prosperity and protection. This wasn't because spoons were glamorous, but because they represented nourishment, an unspoken hope that the child would always be fed and cared for. Families often engraved their spoons with initials or simple patterns. These markings turned an everyday object into a keepsake, a small reminder of lineage in an era when records were scarce and possessions limited. A spoon might pass through several generations, each person using it daily without thinking much about its sentimental value. In folklore, spoons appeared occasionally in superstitions. Some believed that finding a spoon on the road was a sign of coming hospitality. Others thought that placing a spoon under a pillow could bring calm dreams or encourage restful sleep. These beliefs were simple and rarely written down, yet they floated quietly through households for centuries, shaping tiny rituals around a very ordinary object. In Wales, intricately carved wooden love spoons became tokens of affection. Though these ceremonial spoons weren't used for eating, they demonstrated how the shape itself became symbolic, curved, steady, and familiar. Each carved pattern carried a meaning. Hearts for love, twists for unity, chains for commitment. Even here, though, the symbolism remained gentle and understated. Through all of this, the spoon never demanded attention. It never tried to become a centerpiece of culture or myth. It simply existed at the periphery of life, gaining symbolic weight only because it was so constant. Its meaning grew not from grandeur, but from reliability. And in a world full of uncertainty, something so steady held a quiet kind of comfort. The arrival of the Industrial Revolution introduced dramatic change to nearly every aspect of daily life, including the simple spoon. Before this era, spoons were handcrafted, each one unique, shaped by an individual artisan. But with the rise of factories and machines in the 18th and 19th centuries, spoons began to take on a new identity. Uniform, predictable, and mass-produced, metalworking technology advanced rapidly. Factories developed stamping machines capable of pressing sheets of metal into spoon shapes with remarkable precision. The process was efficient. Metal sheets were fed through massive mechanical presses, cut into outlines, and stamped again to form the bowl and handle. Workers then polished each spoon until it gleamed. This system allowed thousands of nearly identical spoons to be produced each day. For the first time, ordinary people could afford metal utensils. Stainless steel eventually replaced silver and tin, offering durability without the need for constant polishing. The spoon transitioned from a handmade household item to a standardized tool available in general stores, markets, and catalogs across the expanding industrial world. Kitchens changed, too. Instead of a single wooden spoon hanging by the hearth, families might now own several metal spoons, some for cooking, others for eating, and a few kept for special occasions. Hotels, restaurants, and cafes adopted full sets of matching cutlery, each piece designed to complement the others in both shape and function. While the Industrial Revolution made spoons more accessible, it also stripped them of their individuality. No longer did each spoon have the distinct quirks of hand-carved craftsmanship. Instead, they all looked nearly identical, but in this uniformity came something else. A sense of reliability. A spoon bought in one city would feel familiar in another, and in a rapidly changing world, that quiet consistency offered a subtle, comforting stability. Today, spoons are so common in American homes that they almost disappear from notice. They rest in drawers, in dishwashers, beside cereal bowls, and inside lunchboxes, silently participating in daily routines. The modern spoon, usually made of stainless steel, represents the culmination of thousands of years of gradual refinement, yet it still fulfills the same simple purpose it always has: to lift food, stir ingredients, and offer comfort through familiarity. In diners across the United States, spoons clink softly against thick ceramic mugs filled with coffee. In homes, a spoon might be used to scoop ice cream late at night, or measure sugar for a recipe passed down through generations. Children use them to eat soup on cold evenings, learning the same motions practiced by countless people before them. Even in fast food restaurants, disposable spoons made of plastic continue the tradition, temporary, lightweight versions of a tool with ancient roots. Specialty spoons have also found their place. Teaspoons, tablespoons, dessert spoons, soup spoons, and the long-handled iced tea spoon, often seen in southern households. Each one serves a small purpose, refined through habit rather than innovation. Even though their shapes differ slightly, their essence remains unchanged. What makes the modern spoon remarkable is not its design, but its constancy. In a world driven by rapid technological change, the spoon remains simple and reliable. It doesn't require electricity, updates, or instructions. It just works. It's there when needed, forgotten when not, and ready to return to service without complaint. Through all the complexities of modern life, the spoon continues to offer a quiet moment of connection to the past. Every small scoop echoes the long, unbroken chain of human routine stretching from ancient shells to wooden carvings, from bronze workshops to today's kitchen drawers. As we come to the end of our quiet journey through the long and gentle history of the spoon, you may notice a subtle stillness settling around you. It's the same kind of calm that comes from paying attention to something so simple, so steady, and so undeniably ordinary that the mind begins to loosen its grip on the day. The spoon has never been a symbol of excitement or urgency. It has never demanded to be remembered, and yet, for thousands of years, it has stayed by our side softly, patiently, and without changing very much at all. From ancient shells gathered along forgotten shores to wooden spoons carved by hand in dim cottages to the refined shapes, molded in bronze workshops and Roman kitchens, and finally, to the stainless steel utensils resting quietly in modern drawers, the spoon has accompanied us through every era. It hasn't rushed. It hasn't insisted. It has simply been present, offering small, dependable moments of usefulness. And maybe that's why the story feels so comforting. In a world where everything moves quickly, where trends shift and technology evolves faster than we can keep track, the spoon remains as humble as ever. It reminds us that not everything needs to be remarkable to matter. Some things can simply exist, doing their job quietly, without fanfare, and that, in itself, is a kind of peace. So as we close tonight's slow, meandering exploration, allow yourself to breathe a little easier. Let the simplicity of this story linger in your mind, like a soft echo. There is nothing you need to remember, nothing to hurry toward, nothing left to do. Just rest. Whether your eyes have already grown heavy, or you're drifting gently toward sleep now, I hope this quiet hour has brought a bit of calm to your night. Thank you for spending this time here. And whenever you're ready, whether tonight or some other evening, I'll be here again with another quiet story to help you drift away. For now, good night, and may your rest be as steady and peaceful as the spoon's long journey through time.